History shows us that running backs have the highest percent chance of breaking out in either year 1 or year 2 of their NFL career. So today, we're going to take a look at those year 2 running backs and project their outlook for the 2026 season. Now, Ty, we have 9 different running backs that we're going to cover today, and we're going to discuss them in order of ADP over on Underdog, where drafts are already happening. So we'll try and do a bit of a deeper analytical dive on these guys, but we'll try and keep it condensed as well, because we don't want to keep you here for an hour plus, so we could sit and discuss all these players. So Ashton Jeanty is at the top of the ADP chart, Ty, currently going as the running back 6 over on Underdog. Still, despite a disappointing rookie season, managed to weasel out a running back 13 season last year. Obviously, we are drafting Ashton Jeanty at the tail end of the first round last year. We're getting him tail end of the first round again this year. Where are you at with Ashton Jeanty going into 2026 with the improvements, I'll say, that they made on offense?
Yeah, obviously, you would like the costs and the ADP to be a little bit different than it was last year, just because last year was disappointing. We can admit it was disappointing, even though running back 13 is still a really solid finish. It was disappointing just because of the talent that was Ashton Jeanty coming out of college. And like you said, Vegas has done a lot of improvement to try to get this offense moving forward. You bring in Clint Kubiak, you draft Fernando Mendoza, you bring in Tyler Linderbaum on the offensive line. There are things in place now for this Vegas offense to hopefully take a step forward in the right direction rather than go in the wrong direction. And I think for Jeanty, he's going to be the main benefactor of that. We know with Clint Kubiak coming over, or I shouldn't say coming over, but coming from the Shanahan tree, where the run game is everything. You don't have a run game, you don't have an offense. So you would like to think that you're going to establish a bit of the run, and Ashton Jeanty is going to shoulder I'll just say it. He's going to shoulder all of that work. So, I'm excited for Jeanty from a bounce back perspective. But like I said, I wished, at least on Underdog, I wish the cost was a little bit lower, just because again, we're coming off a running back 13 season. And look, I'll just say the smart drafters are over on Underdog, and they know, hey, Jeanty is a prime bounce back candidate this year.
Yeah, the one thing that I think defines Ashton Jeanty's 2025 season, in terms of yards before contact per attempt, only 1.28 yards. I mean, that was bottom tier, and that's because the Raiders' offensive line was probably among the worst in the league last season. So when you make these improvements among the offensive line, you all of a sudden get to create more holes. You get to create more runway for Ashton Jeanty, right? But even despite being behind that offensive line last season, try 2.38 yards after contact per attempt. 65% of his yards last season came after contact time. I mean, that is just stupid. That's just stupid, right? So if you give Ashton Jeanty more runway this year, there's an opportunity. He's going to have a much higher explosive run rate. He's not going to be facing as many stacked boxes if you can push the defensive line back more with the improvements that they made, with Colton Miller coming back healthy this year as well. So by the time you also factor in an elite passing game share as well, I remember back last season when we were talking about our initial projections, you and Cam were shocked I had Ashton Jeanty upwards of 70 targets last season. And I mean, he came out last season, 73 targets, 52% route share, which is among upper echelon in the league. So go ahead. I know I'm doing my little victory lap here, but I'm just saying, if you actually add the efficiency to Ashton Jeanty's game, you get him some more opportunities around the goal line. If they're in scoring opportunity more often, it makes sense why people are going to continue being bullish on Ashton Jeanty after what the Raiders have done in terms of improving not only their offensive line, but their coaching staff seemingly this offseason.
I just feel like your projections were maybe more 70 receptions than 70.
Is that what it was?
I'm gonna double check, because I could have sworn. I could have sworn.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe I was.
No, but you did. Okay.
70 targets I had him at, right? Yeah.
Well, actually, if I remember correctly, also, it did take some convincing. There was a lot of convincing that was needed, but we did eventually get you down to about, your projections had 74 targets.
Okay. I was one off. Wait till the Fellows Draft Guide comes out this season, man.
Just saying.
Hot start already.
We don't just put that out just to be cool. Like, we actually put in time and energy and research into that sucker. But like you said, like Jeanty, it's kind of to the benefit that they didn't really add anyone in that receiver room outside of Jalen Naylor. Like, we know that Brock Bowers is going to be probably the top target earner, but Jeanty's, he's got a big slice of the pie in that receiving game as well. So, I think the one question that we could probably ask leading up to the season is, hey, what are the touchdowns actually going to look like? But at the same time, like, volume is king, right? That's what we will say forever and always when it comes to fantasy football and these running backs. And that just gives him a floor that not a lot of other running backs that go later than him can offer.
I mean, if we're going to be giving Ashton Jeanty upwards of 340 touches again this year, or 340 opportunities, excuse me, that's going to produce fantasy points no matter what way you slice the cake. So I'm with you there. I running back 6 is still just a little rich in my blood, but you're right. The sharp people over on Underdog typically know what they are doing over there, and ADP is typically more reflective of the production that these players can provide. Just 4 picks after Ashton Jeanty, 5 picks after Ashton Jeanty is Omarion Hampton, currently going as the running back 10. This is a much more digestible price for me, Ty, and frankly, seeing the backfield competition for Omarion Hampton, knowing this offensive line is going to be healthier this season, I'm in love with Omarion Hampton at this price tag because I do think, like, basically anyone from RB 5 to 10, you're seeing it over. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing it on your screen. It's Cook, Jeanty, Achane, Barkley, Kenneth Walker, Omarion Hampton. Like, Omarion Hampton is one of the leading candidates, in my opinion, to be the top of this list come end of season.
And honestly, I'm kind of surprised. Again, Underdog is kind of real-time ADP. It wouldn't surprise me if you go into your home leagues and Jeanty and Hampton might be like back-to-back.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really hard for me not to go Hampton because, like, doesn't it just feel like everything's finally in place now for this Chargers offense? They brought in David Njoku we're recording this on May 11th, Monday evening. Yep. They brought in David Njoku earlier this morning. So the passing game, bit of a headache that I did not really expect to be thinking through today.
No, I didn't either.
But Omarion Hampton is just going to feast at this point with how much the Chargers will want to run the ball and assert dominance on the ground. You're getting an offensive line back with Joe Alton, Rashawn Slater fully back healthy. You brought in Tyler Biadasz. You got Cole Strange from his time in Miami with Mike McDaniel. You took Jake Slaughter, right? Slaughter. Thank you.
Yep, Jake Slaughter, Florida.
Like, your offensive line is relatively set. And I also like to think, hey, Mike McDaniel likes to get the ball in his running back's hands in the passing game. So Omarion Hampton.
I was wondering if you're going to bring this up.
Yeah, like Omarion Hampton, like 32 catches last year in 9 games, 10 games, whatever it was. It's gonna increase just a little bit. So again, it's not that I'm hot and bothered by Omarion Hampton, but I am fully expecting more people to be in on Omarion Hampton the closer that we get to the start of the season when everyone's doing their drafts, just because everyone's going to realize, oh, the Chargers are about to go nuts. And Omarion Hampton's going to be a big part of that.
Drew a target on 20% of his routes last season.
Jeez.
So, I'm not...
How much of that, though, is because there wasn't a whole lot of time to throw.
Yeah. So no, totally. I mean, that's what you have to point out, though, right? That stat can't be taken without context, right? There's a reason Keenan Allen was the team's leader in targets last season. It's because this offense literally didn't have time to throw. But you mentioned Mike McDaniel liking to get his running backs involved in the passing game. I'm not sitting here telling you Omarion Hampton is going to be Devon Achane, but in that regard, you have to be optimistic about Omarion Hampton. And you look at his explosive run rate last season, 6.5%. I mean, that's a relatively good percentage as well. So in Mike McDaniel's outside zone scheme, if he gets Omarion Hampton some holes on the outside, we could be looking at an additional home run hitter this year as well. I mean, the explosives could just line up for Hampton, where again, Some of these guys have opportunities to regress this year, right? Saquon Barkley was pretty disappointing last season. Kenneth Walker, without Patrick Mahomes to start the year, we'll see how that turns out in Kansas City. James Cook, Ashton Jeanty, I think are your strongest, your breakout cases. Achane, obviously, you're a little bit concerned in Miami, but there's like, it's a question I asked with Devon Achane last year is like, what if we get everything? What if we get the efficiency, the high target usage, and the touchdowns to all come together this season? And I'm asking the same question with Omarion Hampton. I'm saying, what if we do get a healthy involvement in the receiving game? I'm not saying he needs to be Achane or McCaffrey, but I mean, 32 receptions is a good start to your rookie season when you also missed a fair amount of games last year. What if you start hitting more of those home runs? This Chargers team is going to be in scoring position. What happens when Omarion Hampton hits double-digit touchdowns this year, right? The case is so easy to make for him to be a breakout this season and be a guy who finishes top 5 is within his range of outcomes, in my opinion. We'll move on there. TreVeyon Henderson, Ty, goes off the board next over on Underdog as the running back 20 currently. This is a little bit more of a conversation because Ramondre Stevenson is still in town, yet people still seem bullish on TreVeyon Henderson despite longing for it all of last season and not getting it. Where are you at on TreVeyon? Are you gonna chase the upside here? Are you gonna chase the explosive, the advanced metrics that loved TreVeyon Henderson last season, or are you still a little pessimistic?
I might still be a little pessimistic just because I like my running backs to get some kind of guaranteed volume.
Sure.
Honestly. With TreVeyon, I mean, we had this conversation in discourse last year where you look at the efficiency, you look at advanced metrics for TreVeyon Henderson, and you go, this guy should be taking off and getting more volume here soon. And it just never really happened because you watch the film, you watch the games, and you go, TreVeyon, is missing a couple reads here and there. The pass blocking was a huge conversation coming out, and then it just did not really translate in year one. So
did not manifest.
Did not. So there's just a lot of like, hey, we need to be realistic with what we're expecting with TreVeyon this year if we are going to be drafting him on a per touch basis. And you look at, again, the advanced metrics and all that kind of stuff, you go, absolutely. But if you are expecting more volume to come his way because he's going into year 2, you do have to remember that Ramondre Stevenson is still in town. Okay, that's going to be the biggest thorn in any fantasy player side this year is Ramondre Stevenson to TreVeyon Henderson. So I guess I don't mind TreVeyon, like on Underdog, like run back 20. I don't mind it. But more times than not, the way that the drafts fall, again, over on Underdog, I'm kind of looking at like, I've got 2 running backs already, or maybe I'm going kind of hero running back. I'm kind of loading up on receivers and I go, I need something a little more consistent and a little more solid at running back rather than TreVeyon. So I guess like I'm fence sitting with TreVeyon. I don't mind it, but at the same time, I think this is just what I would plead for drafters out there, especially as we get closer to the season. Just know that like what you saw last year is probably what you're going to get again this year.
A running back 19 finished last season, currently going as a running back 20. So right there, I'm like, I think I'm willing to chase that, mostly because I do think we see improvement. And I don't want to say improvement. We see more involvement this season, right? Only 180 carries last season, but the efficiency was off the charts, Ty. And I understand efficiency metrics can just be noisy sometimes, but when you're talking about a 51% success rate, I mean, that's pretty dang good coming out in your rookie season, playing second fiddle to Ramondre Stevenson. I still hold the belief that I think we can get a Jahmyr Gibbs light here. And when I say Jahmyr Gibbs light, I am not saying TreVeyon Henderson is a locked and loaded top 10 running back, but I'm saying in regards to the role he plays within this offense, the utilization we're going to get out of him, I think it's going to resemble that of Jahmyr Gibbs, but it's just not going to be the bell cow 3-down back production that we're used to seeing out of Jahmyr Gibbs at this point in his career. I do think Ramondre getting older, I think they might start to look to phase him out of this offense, but not to a degree where he's not involved. So I see the upside here with TreVeyon. Again, if you're playing over on best ball, I think I'm going to like him better in best ball because I am worried for at least the first call it half dozen games this season, we do just kind of get a retread of what we got last season. But I could see over the back half of the season if we see TreVeyon kind of go on this top 10 running back stretch where the Patriots finally say, okay, you know what? This guy is going to be the future of our team. We'll need someone to come in and play alongside him, is my guess. They'll probably look at, a veteran bruiser kind of a back that they can bring in alongside TreVeyon. I don't think he's a guy who's going to play all three downs for you for the rest of his career, but I'm still holding on to a little bit of the hope that we can get a Jahmyr Gibbs light situation here. And again, I'm talking like a Bud Light, not some valuable craft knockoff beer.
Not Natty Light?
Oh, okay. Natty Light's a little too harsh. I feel like if we were gonna go with the Natty Light route, that's like, I can't even say Jacory Croskey-Merritt because he isn't even involved in the receiving game. But trying to think of like another running back that's like, they do have that skill set, but Lord knows they won't be utilized to that extent.
Oh, so you're saying like Jalen Wright, but it's also just because there's someone ahead of Jalen Wright. But so I think the last thought that I have with TreVeyon
that's just like
is
water runoff. Jahmyr Gibbs.
Right.
Can't even say Natty Light for that.
We should just move on. You're going to be more in on TreVeyon if you do think the pendulum kind of comes back to the middle or even goes towards in favor of TreVeyon. But if you do expect more of what we got last year, and that's not to say that he's a complete avoid or anything like that, you are just expecting one, maybe two, maybe three carries a game. It may not even be every single game, and maybe every other game where we break off like the 40-yard run or the 50-yard run that's
what we thrived on last
houses. Year. Exactly. That's exactly what he thrived on last year. So it's, again, not to say that he can't do that again, because we know that's the talent that he possesses. But again, if you have your concerns or your questions about how much exactly he's going to potentially get on his plate this year, then he is probably not your type of, he's not your flavor. He's not your type of guy that you would take at this point.
Yeah, I'm really curious where people land on him this year. And even right now, where some of you all land on TreVeyon. Let us know down in the comments. Really curious to get some thoughts down there. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you've been watching this far, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell as well. So you know when all of our newest content goes up. One of the easiest, the most free way to support what we do around here. We're posting videos every Tuesday and Thursday. As we get further into the off season, we're upping that to 3 times a week, and you'll be getting that all throughout the season from us. So I would appreciate it if you join us to success in the 2026 fantasy football season. Tyler, let's move on to 2 running backs, really, but we'll discuss one at a time that are coming off of injury. And funny enough, the same injury. Cam Skattebo currently goes off the board right after TreVeyon Henderson as the running back 21 over on Underdog right now. To me, I'm a little bit surprised that Skattebo is going ahead of Quinshon Judkins, the next player that we'll talk about, not to spoil. But I think at the end of the day, this just kind of comes down to offensive environment and having more confidence in the Giants offense than the Browns.
I would agree with that. I think it is also, when it comes to the injury recovery for both Cam Skattebo and Quinshon Judkins, don't know why. I've seen more about Judkins than I have about Skattebo.
I have too.
I'm not a doctor enough to go, well, that means this.
I have zero schooling of medicine. Therefore, I am not a doctor enough.
Hey, man, I can see someone tweak their ankle and go, oof, that's a nasty sprain. I know what he's going through right now.
I coach.
So again, that
I know what an injury looks like.
I know. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if that means nothing. I honestly don't know. And so I honestly just kind of fall back on I think people are just going to be a little higher on this Giants offense than this Browns offense. And, it's hard not to agree with that because, again, everything from the draft was we're going to support Jackson Dart for the Giants, and it's a benefit to Cam Skattebo as well with Francis Mauigoa. So you can get a little more excited for Skattebo and this Giants than you can for the Browns and Quinshon Judkins, but I don't know. I find myself clicking a bit of Cam Skattebo at this point, just because I'm like, you know what? I liked what I saw last year. There's no way that Harbaugh comes on in and goes, nah, give me Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah,
That's
no.
who I want. I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, is it going to be annoying that you're going to see, you're going to have moments where Tyrone Tracy gets into the game? Probably. But again, I'm just going to trust what I saw last year, that the dude is hard to get down on the ground. And this Giants offense, when they get to the goal line, it's going to be Cam Skattebo. So I guess I'm going to fall back on that a little bit until I hear anything else otherwise. I'm just kind of, that's how I'm going to look at this thing.
And so here's my worry, is that Cam Skattebo truly came as advertised last season. You talk about a guy who looks for contact. I'm like, I might have a little bit of yips there. I find myself clicking Skattebo in this range, mostly because when he was producing last season, I mean, it was upper echelon. It was top 12 stuff, right? So if I can get that at the running back 21, that kind of upside, yeah, I'm all over that. I'll play into that. But again, coming off of a dislocated ankle, fractured fibula, I believe it was as well. I got a little bit of yips there because again, you look at the metrics from last year. 69.5% of his yards came after contact high. Nearly 70%. Oh man, it's absurd. He forced a missed tackle on 26% of his runs last year. So the dude just initiates contact. He looks for contact. He runs through contact. And if that's the kind of style of football he's going to play fresh off of an injury, it gives me the yips a little bit, which is why I understand people aren't pushing him up in the, RB, we'll call it 13 to 18 conversation, and he's sitting right around RB 20 instead. I get it. But I'm also with you, because if we get a full healthy season of Skattebo, decent amount of work in the receiving game as well. If he's going to be the guy around the goal line, 7 touchdowns in the short span that we got at Cam Skattebo last year, there's no reason why we can't see a breakout here to be a top 15 guy in fantasy football. You get that at RB 21, you're getting immediate value.
You get immediate value. And I also just want to call this out, because I don't think I really did it justice when I first spoke. Obviously Ashton Jeanty's environment and offensive line was terrible.
Skattebo's wasn't any better. Oh my gosh.
Skattebo's was not any better. Okay. And I think when I look at, what things are like now and who, Matt Nagy is going to be the one calling the plays, but I look at offensive line and I go, there's a tiny bit more flexibility now that this team has to try to get their best 5 offensive linemen out there and to let Cam Skattebo cook, right? Let him go crazy. Let him be the Tasmanian devil of the NFL and just let him wreak havoc, right? So again, like I'm a little more in on Skattebo than you are, it sounds like. But
yeah,
again,
that's mostly just injury hesitation.
That's the only thing that you need to be concerned about. If you're concerned about anything else when it comes to Skattebo, not to say that you're wrong, but I think you're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill at that point.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the highers on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. Let's move it on to the other running back Ty, who's coming off a dislocated ankle, fractured fibula. That is Quinshon Judkins of the Cleveland Browns. I mentioned it with Cam Skattebo. I can understand why people probably prefer Skattebo, considering Judkins is in a worse situation in Cleveland. But I don't want to make Cleveland out to just be this death pit, because they have gone out and revamped their entire offensive line this season with pieces that I actually don't mind. I think they're an improvement over what they were putting out there last season. But where are you at on Judkins? Because I do think Judkins is a relatively low ceiling player and potentially just a high floor player. And that's not exactly something I'm always willing to get excited about.
I feel like we're kind of taking him at his floor right here, just because
Sure.
he's going to get volume, right? Unless we hear anything medically that, kind of withholds him or pushes the timeline back over the course of the offseason, then we've got some reason for concern. But because of the volume and the touches that Judkins will get, this is probably his floor. But I think his ceiling is running backs like 17 or running back 18.
Right.
Because he's not going to be heavily involved in the receiving game. So you need touchdowns. And do we really think Cleveland is going to be, top half of the league when it comes to scoring this upcoming season? I've got my hesitations, which I feel like most people would share. So it's not that I dislike Judkins, but this feels like this is kind of the Kmart, Detroit Lions, David Montgomery in a certain sense of just like, that he's going to get work on the ground, not going to be a ton through the air. So you're relying on touchdowns. And I don't think this Cleveland offense will give Judkins the platform to excel and to rack up the touchdowns like Montgomery was able to do in Detroit before he got traded.
Yeah, I think you brought up the golden tipping point here for Quinshon Judkins, a 61.1% run rate inside of the 5-yard line last year for Cleveland. So when they get around the goal line, it's going to be Judkins, right? They're going to give him the football. You nailed it, though. I don't know how often this team's going to be in scoring position. Look, they improved their wide receiver room, getting Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston in the NFL draft this offseason. I've seen enough of Deshaun Watson in Cleveland to be pessimistic about that. I saw enough Shedeur Sanders last season to say, hey, he's probably a career backup, but like,
oh, hey, that's Pro Bowler Shedeur Sanders to you.
Gosh,
come on.
Do not even get me started on the Pro Bowl tangent. Don't even, no, we're going to move off of that before I really get pissed off. But I've seen enough from Shedeur Sanders to say he doesn't get me excited about getting this team in a scoring position. So what are we looking at here for Quinshon Judkins? A ton of volume? That's about it. And I know we say volume is king. But again, that only got Ashton Jeanty to RB13. And you and I both agree Ashton Jeanty is the better prospect than Quinshon Judkins is. So we need the touchdowns. We need the efficiency. 3.6 yards per carry last season. 41% success rate. It's a low ceiling option here for Judkins. And I think you're right. You nailed it. I think it's like RB25 is his floor and RB15 is his ceiling. And the median is probably RB20, which is probably what you're going to get this year. So I'm not too excited about forecasting a breakout here for Judkins. I think we're just going to get like a middle of the road RB2 most of the season that kind of weasels his way into potential top 15 finish.
I'll say this and then we can move on. Right. This is a lot of best ball and kind of redraft talk just to give it a dynasty context.
Sure. Dynasty is good.
I'm intrigued as a little kind of, it's not that Judkins is a buy low because he's like a top 10 running back.
He's RB10 in dynasty. Yeah.
But I'd at least send out a feeler to whoever has him in my dynasty league and just go, hey, what's the value on Judkins? Because again, I don't think that this year is going to be terrible. It's just not going to be what you want it to be.
No.
But I would expect year 2 and year 3 to be a when I say drastic, it's not like over the top, like Cleveland's like in the playoffs, like as a team or anything, but like it's going to be a night and day difference of like, oh, Judkins is now like a actual reliable asset to your fantasy teams rather than just he's kind of just a placeholder at that point.
I think Judkins is always going to project better in expected fantasy points per game than he is the fantasy points per game department. Because of the volume he gets, he's going to project higher in expected points. But the reality is that this Cleveland offense is probably going to bog him down in terms of the fantasy production he actually gives you. And I say this about new offensive lines all the time. It takes time for these units to gel. right? You throw four new guys in the offensive line and just expect them to work together instantly. It's not going to happen. It's going to take a handful of games before these dudes finally gel together in real games.
The same Madden, bro. The same Madden.
No, you don't just throw them all in and then it all works out. It's not a sim. So the reality is that I think it could be a slog for Judkins similar to last season until this offensive line figures it out. And then maybe we start to kind of close that gap between the expected fantasy points and actual fantasy points that Quinshon Judkins scores this season. An exciting name that people are projecting for a breakout tie is Bhayshul Tuten of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, you get Travis Etienne out of town with the New Orleans Saints now. People are stepping up to the plate and betting on Bhayshul Tuten to be the breakout back of the season. I have been pretty vocal about this. I have my hesitations about Bhayshul Tuten being the guy this year. He's certainly going to get an expanded role. There is no doubt in my mind he's going to get an expanded role this year. But I'm sorry, if your forte is creating home runs in the run game and your explosive run rate was at, 1.2% last season, that was among the worst in the entire league for the running back position. So, sorry, I have a bit of disinterest in this upside when even as a second-hand player to Travis Etienne last season, you couldn't create explosives. So where are you? It's part of the equation for Bhayshul Tuten. I don't blame people for being excited. I am definitely more on the pessimistic side, though.
Maybe this is just a really simple kind of litmus test. Do you think Bhayshul Tuten finishes the year with 200 or more carries?
No. I wouldn't be surprised if I project him out for like 193 this year or something like that.
He'll be close, but he won't eclipse it.
He'll be close.
Do you think Chuba Hubbard gets 200 carries this year?
Oh, this is a fascinating conversation because Chuba's RB27 on Underdog, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, but you're fairly anti Jonathan Brooks, though, aren't you?
I am, as most.
I'm holding on to hope for Jonathan Brooks. I could see their workloads being the same. I could see both of them hovering right around like 190 to 210.
Oh, how about Ramondre Stevenson?
Ramondre is going to be below 200.
Tony Pollard.
He'll be above 200.
Yeah. All of those guys go later than Tuten right now over an Underdog. And like you said, there will be more touches this year for Bhayshul Tuten. But is he kind of the early down back, or is he kind of a TreVeyon Henderson for this Jacksonville team with not as, how do I say this? Not as explosive as a profile as TreVeyon, or like someone that can capitalize with the explosive trait that they possess, if that makes sense. So all of that to say, like, I think a lot of people just are kind of blindly drafting Bhayshul Tuten, assuming that he is going to be dominant lead guy in the backfield. And I think you and I share the same sentiment of just like, hey, whoa, I would rather see it first than anything else. And I know there's someone else in this backfield that definitely has your heart, and he might just be on the jersey list just because
he might be at this season. He might be. I'm not gonna lie. Chris Rodriguez might be.
And it's not because you like Rodriguez. It's the fact that everyone is so in on Bhayshul Tuten that you're trying your best to
scooping up to Chris Rodriguez at RB38. Yeah. Yeah, you better believe it. Who's going to get the ball around the goal line? It's going to be Chris Rodriguez. I think he plays the complementary role to Bhayshul Tuten so well in this offense. Which raises another question, Ty. What are you going to do with only 10 receptions last season? Started on only 13% of his routes. Sorry, 13.4% route share. Sorry about that.
Oh, is this, so what are you doing with that? Well, this is a LaQuint Allen territory, isn't it?
Well, so then you have a third running back to feature in here, right? I mean, so this is what I keep coming back to is like, okay, I can see the bullish people as to why they want to bet on the Bhayshul Tuten breakout. I'm also sitting here saying, look, I didn't get any signs from his rookie season, and from an efficiency standpoint, from a utilization standpoint, to say I am confident Bhayshul Tuten is going to get that part of Travis Etienne's load this season. Because I could see LaQuint Allen coming in and taking more of the receiving game work. LaQuint Allen is a receiving specialist. He's going to be involved in the passing game more. You have Chris Rodriguez, who I think is going to be your down and distance, your goal line guy, your in between the tackles, do the dirty work kind of player. Which leaves Bhayshul Tuten to, sure, handle some of the first, second down work. But can he actually create the explosives this year? To me, that's what this whole thing is fringes on, is can Bhayshul Tuten increase the efficiency and create explosives this year to earn meaningful fantasy points where the volume might not 100% be there, where the 7 touchdowns in his rookie season is great. I think we could see that number hit double digits this season. But does that turn into running back 26 production? I'm not convinced the ceiling gets much higher than that. That's all it is for me.
No, and it's not that we're saying that like he'll never finish as a top 20 back in a given week.
No, totally.
It'll happen. He'll have
a multitude of top 20 finishes. I would not be shocked.
But it comes season end. And probably this is probably where this gets off of Bhayshul Tuten, but more so onto just draft theory right now. I listed some of the running backs that go after Bhayshul Tuten. Some of the receivers that go after Tuten are just, it's such an easy pick for me right now. Guys like Carnell Tate.
Yeah.
Guys like Jordan Tyson.
This is the range where I like clicking wide receiver instead of running back.
Brian Thomas Jr. Maybe we get off the yips. Marvin Harrison Jr.
I'm clicking, dude. I can't believe I'm clicking a lot of Marv at 33. But I am.
But it's wide receiver 33. Like it's again.
That's a drastic discount. That's 100% discount from where we were drafting him last year.
Yeah, as a top 12 guy last year.
15.
Yeah,
he hovered between basically like 13 to 18 the entire offseason.
Yeah. So again, this is one of the like obviously your home leagues will be a little bit different, but it's not going to surprise me if Tuten is also either
go higher
ranked way ahead, right? Which will be an easier fade for me. But running back 26, I can kind of understand, but this doesn't get me as excited as it does for other people.
Let's move on to RJ Harvey. Cam and I brought him up in our, what was that?
I said your boy. It's your boy.
Okay, but we talked about him in the worst picks in every round of Dynasty Startups. I made him my worst pick in round 6.
Ooh, and you roster him in 2 leagues.
And I said it on the show. There's a reason I took Jonah Coleman at the 110 in our rookie draft because I'm scared. I'm scared for RJ Harvey. And even at RB31, I get you're factoring in a multi-man backfield here. But when we're projecting breakout for this season, Ty, I'm just not confident RJ Harvey proved enough in his rookie season to say, yeah, he's a smash at 31. He's going to turn into a top 20, top 15 guy. Finishes RB21 last season, but boy, you needed a hot streak fueled by touchdowns at the tail end of last season. So I've kind of shared my piece on RJ Harvey. I won't contribute as much to this conversation. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, head back to our worst picks in every round of Dynasty Startups. I talk about them more there. So I more so want to hear where you're at on Harvey.
This is just one of those, like, there's so much contingent upside, but when everything is right in the world, where there's no other injuries to running backs on this team and everything else, it's just a puzzle that I don't want to put together. It's just it's something that I don't want to try to sit through and go, you know what, there's something better on the other side of this. I don't want to play that game.
Yeah.
I think this oversimplifies it. But it feels like it needs to be called out. I shouldn't say all of it. A lot of what RJ Harvey did last year that gives a lot of people optimism came without J.K. Dobbins.
Yep.
The dude is back. I don't know what else to tell you. The dude is back. So it's one of those, like, you should know what you're getting with with RJ Harvey at this point. I didn't really see enough in the time that RJ Harvey had the backfield to himself to convince me that he's going to definitely get more. there will be, a gradual, increase from what he got last year, but it's not going to be substantial enough to justify hey, you know what? He can crack the top 24 again. I just have a tough time getting there.
So, of all the 9 players that we're talking about today, RJ Harvey had the lowest yards after contact per attempt last season. Only 1.88 yards after contact per attempt. So, and that's not RJ Harvey's game. I want to name that first and foremost. Like he's not meant to be a bowling ball kind of guy, but you don't know who is built like a bowling ball, who also has like sneaky good chops in the passing game. He's Jonah Coleman, who they drafted.
Oh yeah, that's right.
One drop in his entire collegiate career. And I'm not saying Jonah Coleman is a pass game specialist by any means, but remember we had the conversation about Ken Walker coming out and people are like, well, he's not a huge pass catcher, but he can do it. Jonah Coleman can do it. And he's built to be an in between the tackles, bruising, short down and distance, goal line kind of player. So not only is he going to eat into RJ Harvey, but if you're concerned about J.K. Dobbins eating into RJ Harvey, Jonah Coleman's going to eat into J.K. Dobbins. It's this like messed up fantasy football toxic triangle that I'm with you. I don't really want to play that game this year. I just really don't. So you could try and make me the upside case for RJ Harvey. I'm with you. I just didn't see enough last season to confidently say, you know what, RJ Harvey is squarely the RB1 of this backfield. And even if he's the RB2, I'm not convinced it's not a RB2A and RB2B. Golly, it's like R2D2 out here. What am I saying? I'm naming Star Wars characters at this point with Jonah Coleman, right? So you and me both relatively pessimistic about RJ Harvey for the 2026 season. I'm curious if people have more optimism than we do in the comments, but based on the draft board at RB31, I'm guessing most people probably share the same concerns that we do. Let's move on to 2 other players. We'll wrap out the show here, Ty. 2 guys taken in the later part of the NFL draft in 2025. Kyle Monangai, Chicago Bears running back, finished as the RB30 last season. Garnered nearly 170 carries, nearly 800 yards. Fell in the end zone 5 times last season. Where are you at on Monangai in year 2? How's the split going to fare between him and DeAndre Swift, who's still in town?
Dog, I'm going to be so in on Kyle Monangai this year. It's not even funny. Like everything that I saw last year, efficiency, offensive floor, and platform that allowed Kyle Monangai to post a success rate above 50%. I mean, like Chicago's running it back in terms of the run game. It's Swift and Monangai. Obviously, Swift is going to be 1A. He is going to get majority of the nod because he played so well last year. Like that needs to be called out. Like I'm not expecting Kyle Monangai to overtake DeAndre Swift. But man, like Kyle Monangai, if I'm getting, over on Underdog, of course, going as running back 32, this dude has a realistic chance of finishing as high as like running back 18 in my eyes. Because this Chicago offense can effectively run the ball. And Kyle Monangai is going to factor into that. I expect more than 5 touchdowns. Swift got the majority of those. But I do think Monangai can take some of those away, just being a little more, how do I say this? Just a little more physical than Swift. But I maybe the best way to say this, I'm going to be in on Kyle Monangai at this price tag. I understand the people that are maybe not as bullish as I am on Monangai, just because, again, DeAndre Swift was playing so well last year. But me taking Monangai and me having this much of this big of a vote of confidence in Kyle Monangai is more so about how I feel about this Bears offense rather than just Kyle Monangai himself.
Sure. It's lazy. I'm just going to acknowledge that up front. I mean, I could 100% see a Diet Pepsi Dave Montgomery kind of season, right?
Oh, really? Really?
When Johnson is the head coach, you're comparing him to
No way. No way.
No. I told you, I named it on top. It's so lazy, but it's the reality of how Ben Johnson likes to utilize these backs, right? I think your downside here with Kyle Monangai is you're not going to get a ton in the receiving game. You'll take 18 receptions. You'll take those 9.5 PPR points and pocket them if you can, but the ceiling doesn't get much higher than that. So you are dependent on breaking off a few big runs, keeping those efficiency metrics above 4.6 yards per carry, which he had last season, and betting on him falling into the end zone more than 5 times this year. I'm not going to tell you, Dave, it's not going to be a Dave Montgomery where he's, top 5 in rushing touchdowns on the season. But yeah, could Monangai squeeze out double digits, get a dozen touchdowns this year? I wouldn't put it past him if you're going to be in on the Bears offense this year, which, man, they are just so built out like the Ben Johnson Detroit Lions offense. By the time you get Colston Love on that tight end, by the time you have Roma Dunze, by the time you have Luther Burden, by the time you have not your ideal running back room, but DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai will suffice in the meantime. And this Bears offense is just starting to, it's the Spider-Man meme where it's the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. And it's the Ben Johnson Detroit Lions offense and the Ben Johnson Chicago Bears offense. And again, I think I like the talent of the Detroit Lions offense that Ben Johnson was coaching more, but it's not hard to see what the vision is here for Kyle Monangai to have a breakout this season.
I feel like there's a bit of deja vu with the ADP for Monangai because it feels like this is where Montgomery was going before.
Well, Montgomery was always in the 22 to 26 range, and I think you're getting that here with Monangai going in the 28 to 32 range.
Well, you're getting that, but I'm saying even more so, before, was it 23 when David Montgomery was every fantasy football analyst favorite pick because we're
oh yeah.
Or is it 24? Whichever year it was.
Yeah.
That's the vibe that I have with this of just we're just ignoring what Chicago did on the ground last year. We should be a little more in on this rushing attack than current ADP of running back 24 for DeAndre Swift and running back 32 for Kyle Monangai.
Yep. Yeah. Top 5 run rate in the league for the Bears last season after their week 4 bye. So this team wants to run the ball. Ben Johnson wants to run the football. And that's going to have to come through DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. We'll wrap out with one more player, Ty. I mostly just want to get your thoughts on Jacory Croskey-Merritt. I don't want to sit here and have a debate. I think he has kind of escaped less scathed than I anticipated this offseason. I thought they would bring in a running back of a stronger caliber than Rachaad White. They did take Katron Allen in the 5th round of the NFL draft this year, 6th round of the NFL draft this year, excuse me. Who put him behind a good offensive line. I kind of like the upside of Katron Allen, but I'm also not going to sit here and act like either of these dudes get me all that excited for Washington's backfield this year. Do you think Jacory Croskey-Merritt can manufacture magic again like he did at the tail end of last season? He got a string of really good matchups, obviously. But is there a world where Jacory Croskey-Merritt can strike again? Lightning can hit twice in the same location here this year? Can't believe I forgot that. Thanks for catching
up. Now that's out of the way.
No, thanks for tuning in.
We all know that's what you actually came here for. What's the business professional way to say I don't care? You know what I mean?
That is the business profession. I could care less.
I could care less. It honestly won't surprise me if we see another similar season on the ground for Bill. Just because I look around and I go, maybe it's kind of a split backfield with him in Rachaad White, but I also see a world where actually Rachaad White's going to be the guy that's getting the majority of the looks and whatnot, and Jacory is going to be change of pace and everyone's kind of what if scenario of just what if Bill got 3 more touches?
Denver, but worse. That's what this is.
Denver.
It's Denver, but worse. It's Denver, but worse. Because
it's
what is Jacory Croskey-Merritt's role? Is it going to be the goal line guy? I think Katron Allen could potentially be that guy. Again, another guy who's just built like a bowling ball. That's going to be more Katron Allen's role. Rachaad White's going to be your pass catching guy. Jacory Croskey-Merritt only had 9 catches last season. You're getting no PPR upside there. So yeah, I think I'm with you. I saw the appeal in Jacory Croskey-Merritt, but when I say less scathed than I anticipated, it doesn't mean he went unscathed, because all the guys they brought in play roles that you'd be hoping Jacory Croskey-Merritt would kind of fill into more this season, and that's just not the reality. You're banking on, again, explosives here because you're not getting anything in the receiving game. And oh boy, it'd be nice if we could replicate 8 touchdowns this year, but I don't think that's even a guarantee.
There's a lot of wishful thinking that comes along with Bill Croskey-Merritt, and I just don't. I won't play that game with Bill this year. It's just not. It's not for me this year, at least.
Again, I think the epitome of Bill Croskey-Merritt, 7.8 expected fantasy points per game last season, came out ahead of that with actual fantasy points, 8.1. So a guy who, I'm guessing the expected fantasy points will remain pretty low, and you're going to bank on a spike in touchdowns or a spike in inefficiency again this next season to get a return on value there. And I don't know if either of those are unfortunately guaranteed when Chris Rodriguez was getting pushed ahead of him on the depth chart towards the tail end of last season. It was not pretty. We'll put a pin in it there, Ty. Again, if you've hung around for the entire episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content is out. We're talking year 2 and year 3 breakout wide receivers next episode. So we're going to have a lot of fun talking about the prime window for these wide receivers to break out. I would love to sprinkle in some year 4 after what we saw last year from some of these players, but truly, I want to keep taking swings on year 2, year 3 wide receivers, the prime window in which they're optimal to break out. You can follow us on our other socials as well. FF Fellas over on Twitter, the FF Fellas over on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. If you are a YouTube person through and through, though, got you covered there. Fantasy Football Fellas shorts. I'm at Lucas Wenzel on X, Tyler_Plath for Ty. We'll be back later this week. Looking forward to being with you all on Tuesdays and Thursdays again, all throughout the offseason. We'll see you then. Deuces.